The FNRad Snowboard podcast is presented by Vans. Season 8 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, FindAnEpicAgent.com, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Anon Optics make amazing goggles for snowboarding. This week, I met a random snowboarder dad on the chairlift who was wondering about my M4S goggles, which feature the same high-end performance of the M4 goggles in a frame for medium-sized faces. He was rocking the M3s, which also have the Magnatech quick lens change technology, full perimeter vents, plus moisture-wicking foam. I've had a few powder days this year where I put on my Anon goggles before the first run and take them off at the car. No fog, one lens, the whole day. Epic goggles are a cornerstone of a proper snowboarding kit. Head down to your nearest Anon dealer and try on a few pairs to get your perfect fit and choose lenses that match the light conditions where you ride. Anon goggles are the best. Support also comes from Dakine, Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and Volcom outerwear. Please subscribe to, like, and share our YouTube channel. Special thanks this episode to Beneath Apparel, Kaya J and the Drink Tickets. That's Ken Ock's daughter and her band who just put out a new album. Go download it. Canon Cameras and Tomahawk Indigenous Product. Bud Fawcett changed the course of snowboarding history by moving to California and taking pictures of many of snowboarding's founding pros, company owners, and pioneers. And now, in true early adopter style, Bud is scanning many of those iconic images of guys like Chuck Barfoot, Tom Sims, and Jake Burton, along with some pros you may have heard of like Brushy, Craig, Palmer, and a veritable who's who of 80s and 90s snowboarding. Slush magazine is featuring his early work regularly, and if I had my way, he'd be constantly working, putting out more of his amazing photos of snowboarding into the world. It's a true honor to have him on the show, Mr. Bud Fawcett.
And right before I moved to California, I was working as a roadie for a punk funk band. And there's some things that happened during a couple of those road trips with that band. I said, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to go see the world. And so I had a red MGB and I painted it was a convertible, and on the roof I painted an NC, meaning North Carolina, with an arrow backwards. So anybody that flew over in a plane would see me, North Carolina arrow, what does that mean? Anyway, I said, I'm going to go to Colorado. I drove down the southern route and I get to like where you would turn north to go to Colorado and New Mexico somewhere. And I should really go see the Pacific Ocean because, I don't know, I'm close and I've driven. So anyway, I drove through to LA. I went through Needles. I stayed in a campground in Needles at night. And this was in the summer. And it was super hot in Needles, 110 at 2 a.m.
Oh, God.
So anyway, I drive to LA the next day, and I'd never driven in heavy traffic before. And I had to start heading north on 101, and I go through Santa Barbara. Oh, it's pretty here. Look at the mountains and the ocean. And so I get to Lompoc, and my engine, the block cracks or the head gasket goes or something. Anyway, my oil and water are mixing and the car's running like shit. So I drove back to a campground in Carpinteria and pitched a tent and stayed there 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, I was running out of money. So I got a job and I went to an employment agency and they gave me a job that first day, and it was to work for Sim Skateboards as inventory control. Oh my
God. I can't believe that. That's insane.
That was my California story.
That's incredible.
That's the short version of that story.
So when you show up your first day, who's training you? Are you meeting Tom, or are you meeting?
Well, that's probably his sister Margie was pretty much my connection.
Yeah,
it was weird. The Sims building was divided in the middle. And Tom and Margie and the sales manager and somebody else were upstairs. And then there's the foyer, and then there's all the workers in the lower section, which is over the warehouse. It was over the shipping area. And so Margie was I used to sit across the desk from Craig Feynman, and he used to clean his cameras.
Wow.
Because Craig Feynman was, I think he died, but he used to be this in-house Sims photographer for skate. And I used to drool just looking at his cameras. Oh, so awesome. But I really hadn't, besides high school, I really hadn't shot any photos up till then.
When did you buy the first camera for shooting snowboarding?
My first camera, let me think about that. I think I told the wrong story to other people.
Nice.
I think I might have still had my first camera that I had in high school. And actually, I did have my first camera, but I was using it to shoot skate for Brand X, because a friend and I had started Brand X skateboards, and I had to shoot the photos of the products and action photos for ads and whatnot. So I think I was using it. But I think in around 1985, I bought a Canon T90. Back then, I think they were about $400 or $500, and did I used the T90 for a couple of years. It was a cool little camera, film camera.
So that would be those shots we were seeing of Chuck and Ernie.
Yeah,
and the.
I think those were shot with my original FTB. I'm not real sure. It might have been the T90. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, my camera that I bought in high school was $300. And that was in 1968.
Oh, wow.
And the newer cameras are more. And then later I bought a Canon F1 motor drive. But I did that after I got a job in a camera store selling cameras. So I got the full bra discount.
Nice.
I almost paid nothing for a Canon F1 with a bunch of lenses and a motor drive.
When did the snowboarding? Because that's one of the things I was talking about with you last night. Like almost all photographers are they come in from somewhere else. Like skiing, surfing was a big one, skateboarding was a huge one, and then the crossover. Like snowboarding is kind of blowing up, so it looks like, hey, there's going to be some money here. If you've made a bit of money shooting skate, all of a sudden you can take yourself out of this competition to shoot skate photos.
You mean people made money shooting photos?
Well, that's the thing that last night, I can't believe you were never a senior photographer for one of the major magazines.
Well, it was for ISM, but that was short-lived. They just named me special projects photographer.
Okay.
Tom Shea, I sent all my first photos from a shoot to him, and then he picked through them and chose what he wanted for the magazine, and the others went to, starting in 1987, or was it 88 that Snowboarder magazine started? I think it was the following year, yeah.
Yeah.
Then I sent them the rest.
When you look at those early photos in Snowboarder, those were the rejects from ISM.
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny when you think about it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I, the only thing I ever really shot besides stuff early on, which was, in 1985, I got a real job shooting photos too. Right. And so I was shooting everything. I think we talked about this the other day. I was shooting news. For 4 months I traveled and I shot snowboarding in 1985. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I'd shot skateboarding some for Brand X. Yeah. In April of 85, I got a job working for a newspaper in Tahoe, and I kind of quit shooting snowboarding. Right. Until later in 1986. So I was learning a lot about everything. I was a real novice. The fact that I have photos from 1985 that turned out and were sharp and were exposed correctly was pretty much miraculous. Especially that first Mount Baker trip in January of 85. Number one, I had gone there to shoot the bank slalom with a Canon with a 200 millimeter, so I didn't have. But I fell on the way to the race. And my 200 was attached to my camera body, and it was a T90. Because I remember opening the bag, and it's like, what's this weird thing on the end of my camera? And the lens had broken in half. Oh, God. It had broken off the camera. So I had to shoot the entire Mount Baker bank slalom with a 50 millimeter lens.
50 mil.
So that made everything focused.
Yeah, yeah.
And luckily I shot it on Plus-X film, not Tri-X. And so it's not very grainy. And quite honestly, if I had if I had shot those photos and they hadn't turned out, I probably wouldn't have shot snowboarding anymore.
That would have been the end of it.
That would have been it.
Yeah. So you had the taste for it, and then what's the event in 86 that you come back for?
85, 86 winter in Tahoe was really weird. We had a lot of rain and the rivers were raging, and I shot a lot of news photographies of flooded roads and cars getting stranded, and they were worried that the natural gas line was going to explode under the Truckee River.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's wrong. They were worried that the avalanche was going to hit the natural gas line in Incline Village.
Oh.
So we were waiting for that event. But we lost our power anyway, and it exploded under the Truckee River. And we were without power for like 10 days. So I spent most of that winter just shooting news and whatever. But it must have been March or April of 86, I shot Donner Quarter Pipe.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, there weren't any events.
That's the Keith Kimmel shot, the
Keith
Terry
Kimmel,
Kidwell shot.
and Damien, Scott Klum.
So do you get addicted at that point? You've got the foundation from 85, and now you've got. I mean, those are arguably the best shots in the world at that point of snowboarding. You're right.
I would agree with that, because as not being snobby or anything.
No.
And I was like, I spent a year shooting photos and learning how to do it, and I went to that quarter pipe and I forgot everything I'd learned for a year. I mean, there's some photos that obviously turned out great. Lucky me. I was using grainier high-speed film. I was trying to use flash fill in the snow. There's so many shots from that day that didn't turn out. It was so depressing.
Oh, wow.
I should show you a few. And you were like, oh my God, that would have been a really good shot if it wasn't fucked up.
Well, that is the progression of snowboarding. That's the knife edge of progression, is that quarter pipe.
Yeah, that was
and
definitely
Kidwell was a standalone in that era of, I mean, he was world champion and he was insanely photogenic, it seems like. Like, was it easy to shoot with him because he was the guy that, I mean, he and Damien were the two main stars of snowboarding at that time. Even Kimmel, not even Kimmel, and Keith Kimmel. Yes.
And, I can remember Donna Quarterpipe. There's so many photos that didn't turn out from that. There was Joel Gomez was there.
Oh, wow.
And there's some other people, and the photos were kind of but most of them turned out pretty good.
Yeah, Palmer wasn't there. Palmer would have still been a kid, or
no. Palmer was still kind of in '85. I really met Shaun in '85. We did a couple of shoots in contest, of course, but at Donner Ski Ranch. But Shaun was, I hadn't really shot Shaun very much until later, after '86.
Right. So in 86, you shoot the Donner. It goes into ISM. Like, that was a cover shot. The Kimmel shot was a cover shot.
Well, that was Tom Shea's shot. But the inside had a bunch of stuff from the Donner Quarter Pipe. Yeah, and it was the freebie thing they gave out at the...
ASR?
No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm really mistaken. I'm off by a year.
Okay.
I always get that confused because 85 seems like the year I shot Donner Quarter Pipe, but it was 86. And ISM was in its second year of publication.
Yeah. So, that's what you said.
That's right.
That's what you said. Right. Yeah. And so that's March of 86. So it's like kind of end of the year.
It was the end of the year, and I left my photo job at the newspaper in April of 86.
So you shot, and then you're like, nah, I don't want to shoot car wrecks anymore.
Well, that's not what happened until the following week. Anyway.
Yeah.
I had taken another job, and I was tired of shooting. There was a really bad, my last week, let's put it this way, my last week was bad because there was this car wreck on West Shore Boulevard, and two families hit each other head on, and the two kids died in one car and the two parents died in the other car. Oh. So it was pretty gnarly, and I was kind of bummed out. And that was actually Cinco de Mayo, and after that I left, and I went to work in Sacramento for another newspaper.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the end of my snowboard shooting for several years.
Yeah.
I didn't really return until 87.
87 Worlds at Breck, or was it?
No, I never went to, I didn't go to Breck in 87. I wish I had.
Yeah.
But just shooting Well, let's see, 87, I went to International Snowboard Magazine as photo editor. And I spent the summer there, and we put together the first couple of issues of the magazine, and we weren't getting photos to edit.
Right.
We were getting prints from Europe of people hanging out. It was hard. And I guess about October, I told Tom Shea, I said, I need to go shoot photos because there's no photos to edit.
Right.
So I left in November, and I drove back to Tahoe. I can remember going through Yosemite and shooting a bunch of photos in Yosemite on my way back to Tahoe City. And that was been late 87, and I started shooting right away. I would go to Mount Rose, early season. And I think I worked in a photo studio to supplement my non-income from shooting snowboarding.
Right.
A photo processing studio, not even a photo studio, a photo where we use chemicals. And I had to process tourist photos.
Oh, shit.
That really, sometimes you'd see a few good ones.
Yeah.
But it was kind of weird. But 87, 88 was a fun time.
That was a good year.
Relearning snowboarding and meeting people again. And
In Tahoe at that time, you've got the Avalanche team, right? I think they did a demo tour or something with that
Tahoe.
88 team, 87, 88.
Yeah, just having a home base in Tahoe is perfect because you have the people in the North Shore and you have the people in the South Shore. And those are really who I spent 80% of my time with.
Yeah.
Tom Burt and Jim Zellers lived in Truckee or in California. Tom lived in Kings Beach or Tahoe Vista, and Jim lived in Truckee. Damien lived in South Shore. Then you got the South Shore posse, who's all those other guys, but they were second generation, like Halapoff. And a year later, in 88, I decided I wanted to go check out Colorado because I never made it there. Remember?
Right.
To California, I never saw Colorado.
This is 4 years later.
So I said in 88 I wanted to go to Colorado and check out the scene there too, because I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot snowboarding now. And and that's also the year they had the Purgatory Trials in November or 1st of December, where they qualified people for the World Cups and whatnot.
Yep.
So everything was perfect. So I went to Colorado. I rented a room in Steve Link's house.
Oh, nice.
In Silverthorne. And I hung out in Colorado that season. And that's where I shot. I actually moved away from shooting, with the exception of Donner Quarter Pipe, of course, but I quit shooting as much racing as trying to shoot free riding.
Did you notice that it was the thing that the riders were focused on? Or, why would you do that? What was was racing dying out, or?
I was exploring Colorado, and it's like, look at all these cliffs and easy access.
Yeah.
We could drive into a place, shoot some photos, and move on in the car.
Yeah. And this is when
Loveland Pass.
This is when people are starting to open up to snowboarding on chairlifts too, right? Like that year is
it was
really
still 87, 88. It was still a work in progress.
Yeah. There was a year that Arapahoe Basin or A Basin,
I think they were open then. Yeah.
Said like, okay, you can do this here. Yeah. Like it seemed like in that era, if a resort decided they were going to open to snowboarding, like just fully open, like, okay, you guys can come here. You can go on every run. Then people from all over the States and Canada would, start looking for places to rent and jobs in the night. Yeah. Like it was enough at the time to create a scene. Yeah,
a lot of skiers were open in Colorado. It wasn't as closed as same as Tahoe was.
And the scene was going off, right? Like
it was good. I spent that winter in Colorado. It's I'm just kind of laughing inside here because I remember I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And I sent letters to Sims, Burton, and some other companies. Said, I'm going to go on a road trip and shoot snowboarding. Would you like to sponsor my trip? And I got no replies.
Are you shitting me?
No, I'm not.
What?
So I shot anyway.
Yeah.
But, I went to Colorado and it was a really great winter in Tahoe. So I kind of missed out there.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
But I had a good time. I met a lot of people in Colorado. It was really foundational for me to meet people outside that Tahoe area.
Who were you guys in the Colorado scene?
Okay, here we go. Here's my brain. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me think here. Well, Shaun Palmer was living, I think he was living in Steve Link's factory.
That makes sense.
And Brett Johnson and
Nice.
the Reeser brothers
Yep.
and Peter Kiss and Steve Vanderbeek and Loveland Pass. I mean, everybody came there at some point. Even Jake came there and we hiked.
Wow.
I got a picture of Jake jumping off a cornice that's in black and white. And I look at that photo and said, oh, I should post this sometime.
Yeah, you should.
Because it's not really, it's sharp enough and it's flat light though. It's really flat. But anyway.
But Jake's not, I can't think of any picture of Jake in the air. Really?
I know. That's what's weird about it.
Yeah.
That's what's really weird because he landed on boilerplate. He's used to that, Vermont, you know.
Yeah.
But he was in the air pretty high and he was coming off a corner. So everybody jumped it. And he was there. I'm gonna post that one.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Maybe
That's
that'll
sick.
be the one I do today.
Oh, I love it.
I need a
love it.
vertical anyway.
Yeah. There you go.
Purgatory was a big deal. That was a big event for my photography. I shot a lot of photos during that, at that half pipe.
Yeah.
And had the bumps and the race. But
Is Purgatory the one with the tombstone? Jimmy Scott shots?
no, that's
on
Crested Butte.
Oh, that's Crested Butte.
But yeah, that half pipe was early on. It was the qualifying event, and I shot all these people and met them, you know, all these new people.
What are some of the shots from that Purg pipe?
Fucking technology.
You can get it if you want. We can get
Spam risk.
Perfect.
Iowa. Yeah, I don't know anybody in Iowa. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, shots from the Purg pipe. What ones that from the slideshow that we just saw would have been from Purgatory?
Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big event. And then the weird thing about that is a lot of people didn't have to show up because they were already pre-qualified, like Palmer and Craig Kelly, and they didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
So there were no photos of Shaun or Craig from that event. But yeah, it was brushy. From the East Coast, it was, everybody was there. Purgatory was a big deal. And, you know, if I think back to all the best photos, it was Hetzel, Gene Higgins.
Oh, nice.
Brad Bowman, even, the skater guy.
Yeah.
Brushy. Why am I blanking? Anyway, everybody was there.
So that was a seminal event for you. When you're shooting that, you're meeting all these people.
Yes. And it was a lot, you know, you're shooting and people back then would like shoot until after dark and you got to get the strobes out.
Right.
So there's some actually nighttime stuff. And so they just set up a lot of photography for me. In that particular season, they had the Rocky Mountain Snowboard season or the Rocky Mountain Snowboard Series.
Right.
Which was the year 88, 89. So it was Crested Butte, back to Purgatory, Jackson Hole.
Oh, wow.
So that was a great year for me just to get my feet back on the ground in terms of shooting photos.
Those night shots of Ranquet, a bunch of those Ranquet shots are Purgatory, hey? Those iconic GNS.
There are some shots of Ranquet at Purgatory.
Yeah.
I think I posted one, though, recently.
Maybe the night one? I can't remember.
The night one is from Ben Bachelor from the board test, the ISM board test.
That's right. Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, we went to ISM in 87, 88. They always did board tests, and we would go around the country. That particular year, we did one photo shoot in Bend with Kidwell, Palmer, Ranquet, and some other people. And then we went to Stratton and shot East Coast boards with the Hayes brothers and Tara Everhard and, you know.
So are you still at this point excited about road tripping and things like that? Like as a young Bud Fawcett shooting photos, is that a part of the draw to this lifestyle?
Yeah, road trips are great. In fact, I remember driving later. So I used to drive a lot from California to Colorado, Utah. I didn't really go to the East Coast much, except for that board test.
Yeah.
But I remember going from the OP Pro in Blackcomb.
Oh, wow.
in 88 or 89 and driving straight through to Denver.
Oh, Christ.
And I was just on coffee, caffeine, let's drive all the way, not stop. And I had a Soundgarden CD in my, or tape even, maybe, I don't even know, in my player. And I listened to the same CD the entire trip.
The whole way.
I never changed it. That was weird. But yeah, I liked road tripping. I had the energy and, I could work. I could stay awake 20 hours.
That's insane. That's awesome.
I've driven it coast to coast from LA to North Carolina about 3 times, nonstop.
That's insane.
I stop after about 20 hours. I have to stop and rest.
Fall asleep and wake up.
And it's
when
a
you wake up.
42-hour drive if you drive straight through.
Oh my God.
But I still like road. I don't like driving anymore though.
Yeah, for the show, I do prefer, if I'm going to California, I like to fly, obviously.
Well, there was no flying and snowboarding past for me.
Right.
Except to Europe.
Right. When do you go to Europe? What's the first European shot?
The first time I ever went outside the country besides Canada was to the Soviet Union in 1990.
So that's with Craig and... Well, who's the other guy?
All the backup people.
Yeah, it was a Craig trip. Yeah.
In that's a fuzzy memory for me because I think we met up with different people at different places. I just remember we were at Munich trade show.
That makes sense.
We were in San Moritz taking trains, and all of a sudden we were in Austria jumping on Soviet Aeroflot to fly into Soviet Georgia.
Shit.
And
was there any fear at that point? I mean, this is
not like
Cold War,
now.
right? This was
well, it was kind of weird because at that point in time, Soviet Georgia was becoming not Soviet Georgia; they're becoming Georgia. If you went into Georgia at that point in time, all the statues of Lenin were covered with tarps.
Oh wow!
And there was a lot of violence, and it was kind of weird. The whole trip was very bizarre. Do you want me to get into that one?
Please. Yeah. Because it's
an unknown, it's really an untold story, kind of, sort of. Let me think about this. So, if I'm leaving anything out here, okay, moving through the process. And, okay, so let's just start with leaving Austria. What's that big town in Austria where you fly out of?
Innsbruck.
We left Innsbruck International Airport and we flew into Tbilisi, which was in Soviet Georgia.
You're traveling as a group?
I don't remember anything about the flight.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the, okay, let's get the cast of characters down.
Yes.
So I don't want to forget anybody. Tom Shea,
Yep.
Willie Asher were from ISM. Wiley had arranged the trip, from my memory, with the government.
Oh God!
With Gadari. Gadari was a hotel in Soviet Georgia, Sport Hotel Gadari, owned by a bunch of Europeans.
Okay.
So he'd arranged this trip to Gadari for a magazine story with the Europeans.
Wiley, Tom,
and
Craig.
Tom Shea. And then Brad Stewart was there.
Stewart was there too.
I think he had his camera and shot some really great photos. They were used in that story.
Epic.
And then on the end, Dave Frazee was shooting it for. He was shooting film for, who was that guy in Canada?
Adventure Scope for Jacques.
For Jacques.
Yeah.
And then we had, who did I leave out? Anyway, meeting us there.
Craig, and who was the guy that does?
And Terry, and Craig, of course.
Who does the method through the legs of the statue?
And that was Stefan Koch, who was an Austrian guy that worked at Gadari.
Okay.
He was our official guide.
That's the shot I think of that from that era.
Yeah, that was great.
Craig just turning in front of it, but his method is the one that you're like,
totally.
Yeah, Russia.
It was, we had a good time. I mean, you have to realize we got to, I told you this story yesterday. We took the tour buses from the airport to Gadari, from Tbilisi to Gadari, Sport Hotel, Caucasus Mountains, and it was snowing. We got there on a powder day.
Oh, wow.
And the tour buses got almost like a mile within the hotel, and the driver said, "Everybody out of the bus. We got to push the bus. There's no chains. We got to push the bus." Anyway, so we pushed the bus up this little partial road and finally got to some flat ground. And we pulled into the Gadari Hotel really late, and they had the full-on spread of caviar and stoli frozen in milk jugs and just all kinds of yummy food. And so we're all there, tired of shit. And so we start drinking stoli. And we all had little private, I don't even think we had share rooms. I think we all had private rooms in this hotel.
Eating caviar,
drinking
room,
stoli.
On a PAL night, so tomorrow's going to rule.
Yeah, well, it took us a while to get going because we had to explore the local area first.
Is that the night that you hit your head?
Yeah, that was the night I was really pretty spent, and I hit my head on the end table and cut a little gash right here, and I woke up in my room. My bed was full of blood, or maybe some vomit. I don't know. That would have been a bad story there. But and that's not a place you want to have medical attention.
Okay. I have never had this perspective of the Russian trips. It always seemed like...
Yeah, well, we explored. It was fun. It was complete chaos at that resort. People did not... And it was crowded. There were no snowboarders there. It was just us.
Right.
And we're the Americans, and everybody in our group are wearing like Dayglow clothes.
Yeah. Craig's wearing that pink outfit with the yellow pants.
All the locals were wearing brown. So you could tell who didn't belong.
He stuck out. Yeah.
And I'm glad, I'm glad that we're not there now doing this trip.
Oh God. But anyway,
right. But people didn't even know how to load the chairlifts. You would have people standing 3 by 3 by 3, and one chair's coming for 12 people, and it didn't work out. And if you've watched Dave Frizzy's film, you can see people, and the lift ops were getting pissed, and they were hitting people with ski poles and just.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's in Board with the World. Craig is narrating like, dude, this is insane.
Craig's standing off the side, shaking his head,
laughing because he's from Baker, where the chairlifts are gnarly, not because getting on, but getting off the chairlift, you get.
I mean, these are high-speed quads run by diesel fuel. I can remember the chairlifts broke down, and there were people stuck in the entire chair just hanging there.
Oh God!
Because they ran out of diesel, and it's just whatever. It was
my God!
Weird, and it's like, how are you going to rescue it? They didn't even have spare parts for the snowcats or the snowmobiles there.
Yeah. If it broke, it stayed where it was until they ordered
we stayed on. I mean, obviously, we rode the Powder for a few days, and then we started hiking into the backcountry.
Craig is on his trajectory from competition to backcountry riding at this exact moment, right? Like he's probably seeing the value in a novel trip to somewhere no one's ever shot before. This is getting in the magazine for sure.
I think Craig's last. Oh, that was the thing. We were at San Moritz before we did this trip, and Craig won the World Cup in San Moritz halfpipe. He beat Shaun Palmer. They were 1 and 2. That was kind of a funny scenario. Terry Kidwell was supposed to go on the trip, but he hurt his ankle really bad, which kind of sucked.
He wasn't there.
Yeah, but yeah, that would have been, I think, 9. It was the last year he was actually competing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he moved right into free. Yeah, it's all about movies and free riding.
Did you guys talk a lot on the trip? Like, is that where?
Yeah, this is probably the first trip I really had an opportunity to know him, because I'd shot him for a couple of years in contest, and then at Baker I shot him in '89. Mm-hmm. I shot him at the Burton team had a house in Truckee. They built a quarter pipe there. Shot him there. So.
But he was the man at this moment. He was the man. He was the world champion. He was pushing stuff at Burton. Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, you got Jason Ford and Brushy and everybody else too. It was a good crew.
Yeah.
The Truckee house was full of stars.
Yeah. Jacoby, Duck Boy.
Yeah.
Eberhardt.
Yeah, that was the crew.
Yeah.
But in 1990, he kind of transitioned over to more free riding and film roles.
I think a part of that is documented in that Adventure Scope film. Like, he's like, I don't know. He got burned out on it.
Yeah, well, he had.
Well, he also saw Terrier, right? And he quit before Terrier ever beat him, and he never let Terrier forget that. Terrier never beat Craig.
That's funny.
Isn't that awesome?
It's perfect.
It's absolutely perfect.
Because I remember Terry was at the 1990 World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the World Championships in Breck.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a power.
Yeah.
But it was Craig, Keith Wallace, and Shaun Palmer that ended up winning that event.
Yeah.
And now I know why the microphone's so close, because when I talk really low, you can still hear me.
100%. I love it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Consummate professional, right?
But yeah, starting in 89, I would always go to Baker and shoot with Craig, and usually Craig, and at the time, 89 or 90, Craig was sharing his house in Glacier with Mike Ranquet.
Nice.
I can remember being there. It might have been there are a lot of things happened really fast that year in 1990. It was Baker, Russia, World Cup, Emirates, Breck. So no wonder I can't remember.
No, that's huge. That's a big year.
A lot of stuff happened. Yeah, we talked a lot on that trip because we took trains. We had sleeper cars.
Oh, wow.
We, on the plane, we were in Tbilisi, basically a third world country.
Yeah.
And so we had a good experience.
I love the list of people that you mentioned this morning. Like, you're like, when I go to Baker, I was staying at Craig's. When I go to Colorado, I'm staying with, who was it, Delaney?
I think I stayed with everybody in Colorado, but it was mainly Hetzel. Hetzel always put me up in Breck.
Yeah.
I think it was in Breck.
And then Utah.
Or maybe it was Copper Mountain.
Utah. Drew Hicken.
Yeah, Drew and
Absolute
the Salty Peaks crew.
Yeah, the Salty
me up
Seven.
I remember I shouldn't. It's funny. Utah. When you want to go to Utah?
Let's go to Utah. I love Utah.
I didn't spend a lot of time in Utah, but when I did, it was awesome.
Oh God, of course.
The powder was always killer in Utah. Of all the places I went to, Utah has the best powder.
I could
no doubt.
I'll argue for BC, but yes, Utah. It's light. It's
light and dry.
It's light and dry.
You can't beat it. You just float. There's no stickiness. There's no crunchiness. It doesn't turn into concrete the next day. It stays light for a while.
Oh yeah.
But
and it can blow a reset, right? Like if it's windy and it didn't snow overnight, it could still be a full reset.
Yeah,
because the snow's blowing around.
Yeah, the first. Let me think here. Let me clarify where. Early on, it was the Salty Peaks crew. That's Absolutely. Who I went to shoot.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever went there, Drew Hicken put me up in his house, and he was sharing it with other people. And I remember it was an old 2-story house. And at that time, bringing up alcohol, the alcohol in Utah is not very strong. Right.
The beer was some weird percentage.
And I don't think you could buy liquor. It was a weird kind of thing. So I asked him, can you buy me some weed? And he brought me some Mexican weed and said, really? This stuff's horrible.
Like repress? Like brown crappy.
Mex, I was like, oh my God, this is gnarly. I mean, I didn't smoke a lot of weed on these trips because I couldn't focus if I did.
Gotcha.
But
your photos are soft. You're like, oh, I must have smoked a bit too much. I
must have forgotten to focus the camera. That was way before autofocus. You actually had to turn the lens.
Right. And so
like,
the Salty...
I forgot. I underexposed everything. I'm sorry.
The Salty 7, Nazari and Hicken are trying to build this business with Salty Peaks, right?
Yeah, they had one shop at the time, I think.
And then Davis and the Ryder guys are like, it's a big group of cool people building the sport in, like you said, the place with the best snow in the world.
Yeah, we did Snowboard, Brighton, Powder Mountain. There's a couple other places we went to. Plus we did, that was earlier. But yeah, it was Nazari, Hicken, Jeff
Park
Davis.
City was something else at that time, wasn't it? It was
Park City Park City didn't allow snowboarding.
Oh, wow.
Or did they then? No, I don't think I think that was a latecomer, wasn't it?
Oh, there's the one across from that still has, they're the holdout right now.
Park City was a latecomer. Park West.
Park West, right.
I always get that mixed up. And I've been corrected many times because I think they changed their name.
That's what I think too.
And
I rode Snowbird with Jeff Davis and Benny Pellegrino. It was
Yeah, Benny Pellegrino was there too.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
There's
He's
a bunch of Utah people
sweetheart.
whose names I cannot remember.
I can't believe I still can't believe you weren't senior photographer for Snowboarder Trans World.
Well, Snowboard sent me on a lot of trips. I have no complaints.
So right from the beginning, Palladini's the first managing editor of Snowboarder. Is that right? I think so.
Well, he was managing editor, and then he became publisher.
And he decided at ASR or something, he picked Bass and Jamie Lynn. I said, hey, boys, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Yeah.
And that was that trip, right? Is that the trip to...
Can I look it up?
Well,
I did. Yeah. I did 4 or 5 trips with Snowboarder magazine.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was to Italy. The second one was Jamie Lynn and I'm sorry. The second one was Les Arcs.
Oh wow.
The third one was Jamie Lynn and Bass to Verbier.
Wow. And Jamie Lynn with his hair and everything, like same thing you were talking about in Russia, like everybody looks one way, and then here are the Americans shooting photos in the middle
bright
of
hair.
Yeah.
They were punks.
Oh, absolutely.
It was awesome.
2 of the best humans I've ever met.
Yeah,
Jason
good trips.
Bazarich.
And our trips, we would always shoot, and then Doug would say, okay, let's go to Paris and eat pizza. And it was funny because Jamie Lynn, being an artist, he loved going to Paris because of the Louvre and the Modern Museum of Art there. And
Did you go to the Louvre with Jamie Lynn?
Yeah, we would look at what's the famous
Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa right there.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Didn't have any spray paint with us or whipped cream or whatever.
It's smaller than you would think,
It's much smaller. It's a good 8x12.
It's tiny.
It's a tiny painting.
Yeah. Most famous painting in the world, probably.
But it was fun. I mean, we did things in Paris. That trip to we did 2. I think we did 2 trips. One was to Verbier and one was to Val d'Isère on 2 different years. And both times we did crazy stuff. I mean, we went, I don't remember which trip it was, but we went to the red light district. And I had my camera and I shot a picture at night and the flash went off and all the prostitutes came running after us with canes, going to beat us on the head.
Give us your film. Like we'll
What
tear from your
the heck
camera.
are you doing shooting photos of us?
Yeah,
I wasn't shooting photos of them. But there were some interesting storefronts there and like an idiot. I mean, back in this day, you have to use a flash with a film. It's like, I can't shoot it available light.
Red light district in Paris?
Paris.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, that was good. And I remember Jamie Lynn and Bass are sitting on one of these famous sculptures on the head in front of the Modern Museum of Art.
You have that photo?
Oh, yeah. It's like, dude,
you got to
just
post
climb up there. We'll take a photo. And my fondest memory of Europe at that point in time was, and let's see here, this was a different trip. Who else? No, it was Bass and Jamie Lynn, but I can't remember who else was on that trip. But we went off the backside of Verbier and snowboarded down through tunnels in the backcountry and went and snowboarded to a little village.
Nice.
And we took the bus back. It was awesome. But that was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite trips. I later discovered after I got hurt I couldn't carry a heavy backpack anymore, and stand at the top of Verbier and kind of side slip I could die.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
I don't worry about death, but I just don't want to be mangled.
Yeah, well,
I don't want to be roadkill.
So let's talk about the accident, because obviously it affected your life. There's pre-accident, post-accident Bud Fawcett. Yeah. And is there PTSD there? Like,
what's PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress
disorder. I know what
disorder.
it stands for. Of course, I have that every day, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's how you interpret it.
How has it over time? Because what year is it? It's 92 that happens?
1992. President's Day, 1992, a Monday. That was a really busy year for me shooting photos as well. I'd come back from Europe and I had giardia or something. It turns out I had a bad gallbladder.
Okay.
But the doctor said, you must have had some bad water in Europe.
Right.
But I was shooting a lot of photos and that year, and I also had taken a job to supplement my non-income producing snowboard photography at that point, which is kind of hard to believe because
It's impossible to believe. Yeah.
You got to pay the bills. But I had taken this job with Ski Times shooting photos around Tahoe.
Oh, awesome.
And so part of my deal was I had to go out. I've never told this whole story, so this is going to be interesting.
Sick.
Because I'll have to remember it, first of all. So I had to shoot. We always did this man on the street segment that went in Ski Times, and you go to a skier and you ask people what they think of blah, 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 and they give you, and you shoot their photo and you put their quote next to it.
Yep.
So anyway, it's President's Day. I go up there to do that. And then Steve Graham and Dave Cioni and Nick Parada and Shaun Palmer and myself, and that's probably it. We're at Squaw. The snow was super sticky, way sticky, kind of pissing rain. It was a warm storm. And we were snowboarding around, and I shoot some photos. And then I put my camera away because I'm just going to leave. So I got my camera in my back, my fanny pack. And we're all like at this on KT 22 or the Saddle or wherever. I can't remember what that part of the mountain's called. And I couldn't. Nick Parada's to my right, Dave Cioni is to my left, and the other guys are missing.
Nick Parada, Dave Cioni. So
and
yeah,
Nick says
Farmer
to me, "Come over here a little bit." And I said, "Oh." And the snow was so sticky that I could barely move. I was buried in wet snow.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my board maneuvering, move out of the way, whatever's going on. And finally I get it going. I said, well, fuck, I'm out of here. I'm going to just leave because the snow's kind of pissy. And
yeah.
so when I do, all of a sudden I black out. That's because I had been hit from Steve coming off a jump. He didn't know I was there, whatever. So anyway, I wake up on my back, and I'm kind of like, okay, what's going on? And the ski patrol comes and takes me in a sled. And I said, Cioni, can you get my fanny pack? I was in the snow. Bring that fanny pack to me, please. And they take me to Squaw Valleys, where they treat people that are hurt and whatever. And they don't know what's wrong with me. But at the time, I didn't really know this until later because they gave me meds right away.
Yeah.
I was paralyzed on the right side of my face. And my arm was hurting really bad on my left side.
Wow.
And they were and it was foggy. And anyway, the Squaw Ski Patrol decided to care flight me from Squaw to Reno to the hospital.
Holy shit.
And pilots don't fly when there's no visibility. It's scary as shit. So they had to fly really close to the ground.
Oh my God.
I can remember at the time, I can remember talking to people. Yeah, we remember when that helicopter flew over our house one day because they flew right next to the ground going all the way to Reno.
Holy shit.
Because it was snow and the roads are all fucked up.
Are you like blunt force trauma, like bleeding from somewhere, or broken bones?
No, it's all internal damage.
Oh,
and
wow.
I get to Reno and they have me on morphine for 10 days. And I was like,
10 days.
They had me on morphine pump. And all I had to do anytime I felt pain was I'd push a button and my morphine bill was like $5 or $6 grand for that stop. And that was back when it was cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's back when you could get health insurance. It's hard to believe health insurance has gotten so funky.
It's unreal. So having health insurance probably saved your life, or at least.
Well, that's another story. But I had health insurance. And I stayed in the hospital. They took me off morphine after 10 days, and then the pain really kicked in. And what had actually happened was my brachial plexus nerve, which goes to your arms, you have a motor one and you have a sensing one. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what the official terms are, but the brachial plexus motor nerve had ripped out of the spinal cord.
Oh, wow.
So, and they found that out after 2 or 3 years of doing MRIs and scans, and finally I had exploratory surgery.
2 or 3 years. Like they didn't find this out in the 10 days that you were there.
2 years later.
Yeah.
But they did they were going to do a nerve transplant here because they thought they could repair it.
Okay.
Because generally when you have a torn nerve, it takes 18 months. If you haven't gotten back the growth in 18 months, it dies.
Okay.
That's just the medical thing. Mm-hmm. So they were going to like take a nerve out of my ankle, put it here. Mm-hmm. So they had me in the hospital. This was my first surgery. And they had me cut open here, and they had electrodes on my head, and they were zapping me here, but nothing was happening here. So they knew that it wasn't connecting anymore.
Oh, fuck.
So at that point in time, they said, okay, fine. You know, the doctor gave me a lot of options. He said, we can take that off the arm. I said, no, I think I'll keep it. I said, doctor, how will it change? I said, oh, no, it won't change at all. This is like, 20 years later. My left arm weighs 1 pound and my right arm weighs 5 pounds. What are you telling me, doctor?
Was there, during these times where you're getting this bad news, is there depressions? Are you staying in the house and not talking to people? Like, did you completely sever your ties with the snowboard industry at that point? Was there like some animosity towards just
I was just in recovery mode because it took me about a year to kind of get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this nerve medicine called Tegretol, which is used for treating nerve damaged patients, Tegretol. Mm-hmm. And I used to do shots of tequila with it just to get rid of the pain.
Wow.
But I had a good time too.
Okay. So you're not in a deep depression, but your life is changing and you're
I had to
learning
reinvent
how
myself.
to do it.
I had to reinvent myself.
Yeah,
I mean, that was way before autofocus. That was before autofocus cameras.
Yeah.
Or it was before generally available. The autofocus cameras were invented in 1990.
Right.
But they really hadn't been adopted by the industry until about that time.
Yeah.
As I remember, I kind of wanted to just move on, you know. I started getting my shit together. Before I had the surgery, I got all my shit together because I thought I could die. I wrote my will and all this other weird stuff.
Oh, wow.
Because you never know.
Right.
I immediately, that summer I was at Mount Hood shooting half-pipe photos.
After the accident?
Yeah. And I was doing Tegretol and it would knock me out. I remember I went off Tegretol because I didn't want to be so zoned out all the time. And it was like crack. It was like I was drinking 50. When I went off the nerve medicine, it was like drinking 50 cups of coffee because I got just so hyped up. It was crazy. Wow. But when I was on the nerve that summer, I missed a lot of days shooting at the half pipe because I was just zonked out at 10 or 11 in the morning. From the drugs. I would go off and shoot a few photos. I just wanted to get back on board and do things that I could. And I actually bought an autofocus camera before that summer because that worked for me.
Right.
Loading the film was something else. Because typically you have to put the camera down, put the film into the little ratchet thing and get it going and shut the back and advance the film. That was hard. But the autofocus was killer because I just pushed the button down halfway and it would focus anywhere I wanted. Because you can't use your left hand, you're not going to be focusing a camera.
Right.
So that was a plus. Canon saved my ass. I always put Canon.
I see that. Yeah.
I put their thing on every post because they made my career continue a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, when I was at Mount Hood, I wasn't snowboarding. I was walking up to the half pipe.
Oh, God.
Which I always did. I'm not going to pay a lift ticket to go shoot the half pipe.
We're in that exact. I'm going to have to pay 3 lift tickets every time.
Oh, my God. And it's expensive now. They're going to cost you like $400 a day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, I took my daughter up there 2 years ago, and we had a good time, but I paid. It's the first time I ever paid for a lift ticket.
Yeah. First time ever.
First time, I think, ever.
Oh, wow.
But
Timberline's worth it. Look, if you're listening to the show, you're thinking of going to Timberline, buy a ticket and tell them that you heard about that on this show.
So where was I? Oh, yeah. So I was ready to just get back into it and see what I could do. And so in November of 92, I said, well, I got to go try to see if I can snowboard.
Right.
So I went to Mount Rose, and I can't remember. I went with a bunch of people. One of the Hatchets was there, and they were kind of laughing at me when they saw me make my first run because I was like a bowling ball going down the mountain.
Oh, no.
Because I hadn't quite figured out the balance thing. And at that time, I had gotten, I think I had step-in bindings.
Okay.
When I first got back into it.
Yeah.
And then I just switched to flow bindings, which are much more comfortable.
Easier to get it in and out of.
Yeah, but, and we went to Mount Rose.
Mount Rose, yeah.
And I did a couple of runs, and finally I I can do this again. Shot a few photos left. And so I continued on. God, 93. Okay, here we go. So I just dove in full force. I asked Dave Sione if I could go on his road trip for Roadkill.
Awesome.
I started my career with a road trip. In January of 1985, I went on that famous road trip, which ended up at the bank slalom with we went to Park City and got denied riding the lift, which was bizarre.
Wow.
That was my first day snowboarding, was at Jackson Hole. On a barfoot,
Steepest,
155 with fins.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't even think we had high backs, fast X buckles.
Fins and fast tech buckles at Jackson
Boy, did
Hole.
I transition back to 1985, huh?
Yeah.
So that road trip, again, like if I had not been successful on that 85 road trip, I'd probably, fuck it. So fast forward to 93 with Sione, I think he kind of looked at me kind of weird. It's like, really? Because he had quite a crew for roadkill.
Terrier.
Cardiel.
Iguchi.
Everybody on the trip was part of roadkill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That shit was awesome.
And we basically drove from
Palmer. I forgot Palmer. Sorry, buddy.
everybody. And those trips get mixed up too. Roadkill kind of crossed over with Fall Lines, other movies.
Yeah.
So you never knew because they would, it was a hybrid,
Yeah.
But we left Tahoe in Dave's or somebody's Cadillac,
Yep.
which had a few issues.
At one point, you're pulling the windshield wipers. Dave Sealy had rigged up a cable to pull it.
bungee cords. I think the heat didn't work. But we drove from Tahoe to Utah. And I believe, I can't remember who was in the car. Sorry.
Yeah, Jamie
But in
or
Utah, I
somebody,
know who was in the car. It was Gucci, Cardiel, and Terje.
Yeah.
So
Kids, little kids, they look
kids. At one point in time, I don't know why I had balloons with me, but I did.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe somebody brought those balloons. But we
Sure.
blow them up from the back, and Terje's looking, what the fuck am I going to do? He's rubbing it on his hair, and his hair's standing up. And there's a photo of that, too. It's kind of weird.
Sick.
Cardiel just ignoring the whole thing. And then we went on to, I can't even remember where we shot, quite honestly.
Eventually, you wind up at Baker. That's what I saw. I remember seeing.
And I did a story
shots.
for a snowboarder of this trip.
Oh, sick!
I was there to shoot photos for the story.
I remember the branding on that story because the branding. Someone did a logo for Roadkill.
Yeah,
and that was in the magazines.
Yeah,
it was
we
on
did
the
a road trip story. We went from Utah. I think we picked up some people in Utah at the airport, and then we drove to Breckenridge.
Oh, sick!
And Morgan LaFont.
Yeah.
Stayed at her house or whoever's house.
She dated Farmer around that time.
Yeah. Stayed there, and they were in the gym. There was a ramp local, so I got to shoot everybody skating. And
Oh, rad.
Ranquet was there at some point because I remember photos of Ranquet on that ramp.
Yep.
And I remember Shaun shaving his head, but that was in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
And we stayed at Tina Basich's condo in Utah. So we were all over the place. It's like, I should write that story again.
Yeah, because Tina and Andy are maybe together at
Yeah,
that
they were
point?
there then, I think. Yeah. So anyway, I go to Utah, shoot there. And, Brian Iguchi ollied a dead cat in the middle of the road.
I remember that.
On the way to, in Utah somewhere.
Yeah.
If you look at the background, it's like, oh my God, where are we? But it was perfect because roadkill, dead cat. Sorry, cat lovers.
Yeah.
But I shot a photo and it turned out.
It sure did. Yeah.
But anyway, eventually, now that was the other road trip. Okay. So eventually.
You wind up in Baker, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we did. Baker was our destination.
Yeah.
And on the way, though, we went through Montana.
Oof.
Somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. We're in the caddy, the red beast. Wait a minute. We had two caddies. Shaun had a caddy too.
Yeah.
I think we had two caddies.
Wow.
We did. We had two caddies because I got pictures in front of Burger King with two caddies waiting for food. That was in the story. But yeah, somewhere in Montana though, we were sucking fumes. We were driving through Montana powder. There was one lane open because the snowdrifts are blocking everything.
Oh, wow.
And we were sucking fumes. And we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. We don't have gas. It's midnight. Nothing's open.
Oh, God.
Nobody panicked yet, but I'm thinking, we're going to die. We're going to be like frozen carcasses on the road. But we go around a corner and there's a gas station open and we save the bell. anyway, we do get to Baker. And with my injury, I'm not really good at riding powder.
Okay.
With camera gear.
Is it your back arm? It's your trailing arm?
Yeah,
or is
it's
it your
my
lead
back
arm?
arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Luckily, this one works.
Yeah.
But because I'm right-handed. Eventually, we end up at Baker, and I can't keep up with them. I mean, there's tree wells of powder. If I fall in one of those, I'm definitely dying. Because if you've seen me get up from falling, which I didn't, I actually learned to snowboard better after I got hurt, because you got to learn your whole balance thing. But I couldn't keep up. So I just decided at that point in time on the trip, I'm going to let them have fun. I shot a few photos there, but I just ended up video grabbing. I learned video grabs from film, and I took all of Sione's footage.
Oh, rad.
And did video grabs for that part of the trip.
Oh, sick.
So it worked out.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, that trip was funny. We did all kinds of, the car was.
So do you disband in Washington and you hop on a plane and fly home?
No, we all drove back, and I think there was some discussion about going back to Breck, and say, I'm not going back to Breck.
That is something about road trips, is that
that was hard.
They do have an expiry date, right? You can't just be on the road indefinitely. You start having piles of dirty laundry in the car, and the car.
We didn't care. We stunk.
Yeah, it starts to suck.
We always had good hosts. That was the one thing about my career in snowboarding, shooting. I never had to pay for hotels.
Incredible.
I always stayed on people's couches.
Yeah.
I always had a home somewhere.
Yes.
And, in Colorado, it was Andy's house. And I don't even remember who he was sharing the house with. Maybe Matty Goodman, maybe.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. We had quite a good time. I mean, Andy and I did a lot of road trips out of his house. What a great travel companion.
How can you keep up with Andy? By all accounts, he is a mess on the road.
Well, I didn't, we did, he was in roadkill, and he understand my situation. But prior to that, in the 80s,
yes,
in the early 90s, he was always a train wreck.
So once he's
Thanks, Andy.
He must have sobered up early then. He sobered up.
Well, it's funny. We could party hardy.
Yeah.
And I do. Let's see. Was the Andy? That was Kemper.
Oof.
That was something else. So we went to Utah. So
that Kemper team was crazy. And I just learned now from your slideshow.
I got to look that up while you're talking.
That some of those Kemper photos that are so iconic, Tina and Mike Basich and Tina up on people's shoulders. Remember that whole thing for the Kemper catalog?
No, I don't remember that.
In those sun ice outfits.
Oh, there we go.
That's some of those shots are you, or all of those shots are you. Did Jamie Salter hire you for the photo shoot for that?
Was Jamie Salter with Kemper? I'm trying to remember what year.
Yeah,
that was 90 or 9. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. 1991. It was a Kemper photo shoot in Utah. Now, that was my only paid photo shoot by a company, by a brand.
Yep.
So I gave them all the photos. Man, did I regret that, because they lost them all.
Yeah, or they're in a box somewhere, like you said. But the company's changed hands so many times.
Yeah, but I don't know if Jamie Salter was Kemper in 91, was he?
No, he was gone by then.
Yeah, so and I can't remember the team manager for Kemper at that point in time.
The team was huge, though, and all those people were iconic. I mean, we saw some of those shots.
Our trip for that paid photo shoot was kind of tainted with some miscalculations on the way, as we discussed last night, and I told you I wouldn't talk about the details. Okay,
yep.
But we left. I will talk about some of them, because that road trip was typical of what happens when you're with Andy. And I'm glad he sobered up, otherwise he'd be dead now.
Right, buckle up. Andy Hetzel.
And I'm doing all the drinking for you now. But anyway, we left Kings Beach. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to really edit down this story.
Yeah, this one will cut out.
We left the Hatchet House doing Jaeger shots in Kings Beach in the Kemper van. Sometime during the night, Polly Johansson, Andy Hetzel, Brad Johnson, Hatchet House. We're doing Jaeger shots. Sometime at that night, Shaun Palmer walks in and breaks a beer bottle against their fireplace, and kind of a scuffle ensues and everything calms down. And so we eventually leave, and how we left, how we would ever drive in that situation. My younger days were not smart. Anyway, we went via Reno, where we had a delay.
Incident.
We finally made it to Utah, and it snowed like 9 days straight.
Oh, wow.
So we rode a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't shoot any photos because film, flat days, powder, no, forget it. Not going to happen. The sun comes out on day 9 or 8 or whatever it was. I shot a lot of photos. We were at Snowboard, and I shot a lot of photos really fast, gave them the film. And yeah, it was fun. And we went to a skate park, indoor skate park. I remember we were at an indoor skate park in Salt Lake City. I wish I could remember the name of the skate park. It's in a warehouse.
Oh, rad.
And Hetzel was just going off. But Andy Brewer.
Yes.
And there were some other people.
Legend.
There were some other people at that. Chuck of Franson was there.
Sick.
I got skate photos of a lot of different people. And one of my best skate photos of Andy ever was in that batch I gave to Kemper. And it's like, oh my God.
Oh.
But I got a picture of Andy Brewer in the air in the rafters of that warehouse.
Sick.
Like 20 feet out of that I'm going to have to scan that one.
Yes, please.
Because I don't have any snowboard photos of Andy Brewer.
So today, the photo is Jake in the air.
Jake in the air and
I'm
Andy in the
excited about
boat.
it.
I need 4 photos because the scanner holds 4 at a time.
Oh,
If you
perfect.
turn it on, you might as well do 4.
Sick.
And each scan takes an hour.
Is this fun for you, reliving the golden era of snowboarding?
Yeah, it's
scanning these photos.
Well, now I'm redoing them all using a lot of new software that's out there, and it really cleans them up.
Right. So this is like gold that you thought was filler or garbage, or like, oh, I don't even know why I'm keeping these. And now you scan some of these and you can touch them up to where you wanted them to be. Like, it's almost like magic, right?
Generally, there's very few that need a lot of work.
Right.
But it used to be and in the days of film, you should have a lot of underexposed photos when you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Mm-hmm. I remember being in Breckenridge and doing the world, I only made this mistake once or twice, but doing the world championships in Brecken 89, it was earlier in the year, like January.
Uh-huh.
And at that time of the year, the sun's much lower, so your exposures are way off. If you don't give it a little bit more light, your film's all black, and that's what I had. It was a bunch of half-pipe photos that were really dark.
Oh, God.
In 89. 90, I figured it out.
And are you able to, are those the kind of things you can clean up now?
You generally, with photos, you can open up underexposed shadows just a little bit, but you can't do anything about burned out, overexposed stuff. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's not really worth it.
You stayed passionate about photography the whole way through. How about the snowboarding thing? Has it always been, did it stay? I mean, you're obviously still stoked on it now. You're still talking about it, which is amazing.
Well, I haven't snowboarded in the last year.
Okay.
I was going to, I broke my record finally because what was canceled? The Retro World.
Retro Worlds happened.
Or
Baker
Legends
was
of Tahoe.
Yes.
I didn't go this year.
Okay.
Or they didn't do it last year because of COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think my record was broken last year. And I haven't snowboarded yet this year, but I still have time. It's summer.
Yeah, you can come with us, do the day.
I could just go
come rip tomorrow.
I just put a snowboard on my feet and say I snowboard. No, I haven't snowboarded in a long time.
I talked to Timberline, get you a ticket.
Oh yeah, well, I just walked to the town.
Yeah, there you go.
The last time I snowboarded is when I shot Holy Bully.
Wonderful. Let's talk about that. Crush is such a sweetheart and puts together these amazing events that are very photogenic.
Yes, they are. They're made for still photographers and video guys.
Yeah.
But you just got to pick your spots just as I would in 1985.
Right. And
if you think you're going to find the best shot on the mountain, it's not going to happen if nobody's on it.
Right. You could sit there and set up and be like, "Hey, somebody go." Well, that's the shorthand and the money making production of a photographer having their guys, right? Like I know that it happened in Vancouver in the 90s. that there was a group of snowboarders that were 100% dedicated, no matter how fucked up they got the night before. If it's going to be sunny, they're hiking to the top of Seymour. They're building a feature, making sure that it looks great.
I've seen those photos on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, they were in the magazines. Seymour dominated the magazines for a couple of seasons.
I'm not even getting the magazines. Oh, there aren't any magazines. They're Slush.
Slush, yeah. Hey, yeah, let's talk about that. What's going on with Slush? I know that Pat is a fan of yours, as is anyone that's been in it.
Should I call him and see if he's still got my number in his phone?
Yeah.
Just kidding. He's called me a couple of times. Said, Bud, we're looking for, he has that voice.
Yeah.
Looking for a photo of this guy. So he's always
So are they paying you?
Fun to touch base.
They're
They
good.
They pay the rate for photos published.
That's
But
incredible.
it comes from some company in Florida or something.
Sure.
Some
Who knows?
namesake. It's like, where did I get this money from?
What the hell is this?
360s. What?
Did you see Dear Rider?
Yes, I did. I watched it. And I thought, I watched it because it was on HBO.
Yep.
And I have HBO because I have an iPhone, which you get free HBO with.
Shit. Nice. Move to Portland, everyone.
So I was stoked because there it was right on my screen. And I watched it one night and I was very upset that I never knew what happened to Jake towards the end. I didn't know he was so sick.
Right.
I thought I thought it was very accurate.
You don't
It was not
contest the
slanted
details.
too much.
Not too much. Yeah.
You know, it was good. They used a bunch of my photos in the stills. And people, hey, my photo's in Dear Rider. It's like, yeah, amazing how that happens when you shoot with photographers. Long time ago. You know, it started, Jake's, that whole thing, I was little, like, it started with all the contest stuff, and I kind of wish they had gone more to the free writing thing. But anyway, yeah, it was a really good value of time spent.
I agree.
Watching.
Yeah.
Because it told a lot about Jake and the company and all the writers. And
it still had the right voices. Terrier's in it.
Yeah, the right voices. And
yeah.
But that was well worth watching. Jake Burden, rest in peace.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of people. It's I do my Instagram post and I've had to put RIP on so many names. I try to remember who, and sometimes I don't know because I shot 2 photos of them in Cottonwood Canyon in Utah and I didn't know they died.
Right.
So it's strange when you find that out. It's like, oh, well, it sucks.
That was a surprise for me because I'm a super fan of snowboarding. Been doing it since I was a kid. And getting to meet my heroes, you being one of them, at first it was just nerve-wracking. At first I was just like, anyone would be around a celebrity, like nervous and ugh. And as I started to get more comfortable, the thing that I didn't expect was the amount of emotional pain that riders and filmers and photographers felt. I don't think there's another sport that has that depth of so many people have passed. It's so dangerous. It's so insanely dangerous.
Especially now. I mean, it was dangerous back then, but I watch ESPN X Games or whatever. I don't even know what's out there now. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
If you don't hit that landing right, you might have broken your back or your leg or smashed your head. And, some people have.
Right. I mean, if you put it into perspective here, one of those guys lands on a photographer, there might be a death.
Yeah, totally. Or it would definitely be a roadkill. I mean, it would be a mangled mess of blood. And it's insane now. I remember watching, was it the Olympic women's half pipe a couple of years ago? It's like, holy crap. Look how huge. Because things have changed since the mid-'80s.
That was one of, socially, that's something that's changed a lot for me. And I was thinking about it on the way down here, that whenever I list the people that influenced me, they're all guys. And I was thinking, no, was I sexist? No, I didn't see myself reflected in the women's riding. I identified with the guys. But up until a year or two ago, thank you, Jessica Mira, for pointing it out to me, that I didn't realize that there are women that needed to see themselves reflected as well. And so they would see themselves reflected in Terry Kidwell or Victoria Jalous or Tara Eberhard, like the women being involved in the sport all the way through. Sometimes they got the short end of the stick. You know, Tina Basich would compete sometimes for equal prize money and sometimes for 10% prize money, right? And there was, I mean, her book was called Pretty Good for a Girl. So I think being in a male-dominated sport, especially on the side of the people that are making the money decisions, I think, yeah, it would have been challenging for women the whole way through.
Yeah.
But if I can change, well, why do I sound like Rocky and Rocky IV? If it can reach me and I can just, like, it was an instant change when Jess told me, those women weren't in the magazines for you. They were in the magazines for me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And there was a small cast of characters in the 80s of women that were active snowboarders and did it a lot, got better. And
Shannon, geez, like the girls were killing it.
Yeah. And
now, like you say, that's what was so exciting. The women's Olympic snowboarding was, once Chloe Kim was doing, I'm sorry to boil it down to one person. I mean, the girls have been getting better and better and better.
Yeah, it's insane.
But the exponential growth is so exciting to watch. It's reminiscent of the changes year to year in the 86, 87, 88, 89 for everybody. Yeah.
Things really changed in the early 90s, and now it's just happening all over again with the power of the riding coming from women's snowboarding. It's like insane.
Snowboarding's been fun the whole way through. It's just been the same. I'll quote Ken.
Except for the lift ticket.
Ken's like, snowboarding's always been the same. It's just everybody wants something from it now, right?
Who'd you quote him?
That's Ken Achenbach. Ken.
That sounds like a Ken quote.
Yeah. I went to his house. I went to his Calgary house.
Oh, cool.
With Josh, and we shot. This is where the original snowboard shop was. 1980. They opened that store in the garage right there.
Yeah.
So many lives changed by that. So many lives.
Ken was a favorite. He would always show up in Santa Barbara when I was sharing a house with Chuck Barfoot, and the stories and the stories and the stories. And, I met Ken and Evan Feen and Bob Boyle. And of course I knew Chuck and Doug DeMont, all those guys in the early 80s.
Rad.
And I finally made a road trip to Tahoe in 84 with Evan Feen and said, I like it here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And they came back with stories of, Evan was in Tahoe in the winter of 82 where it was just epic snow.
Wow.
So they came back to Santa Barbara with all these epic stories about snowboarding and said, I should try that. And then I said, maybe I should take my camera with me and shoot some photos while I'm there. So in 84, we went to Tahoe to the Mile High ramp, and Chantry was fixing it for the Thrasher Terror in Tahoe, or whatever, one of the Tahoe events for Thrasher.
Yeah.
They were putting on new, they were extending the ramp and new wood, and I shot a bunch of famous skaters back then, but on that ramp at night with a flash.
Wow.
Nothing better than being blasted with a flash when you're trying to see your landing. But good road trip. I remember going Old Donner Pass Road with Kimmel and all those people, and Chantry and Stevie Williams and Surfer Steve, and
Rad.
And doing riding, skateboarding down Old Donner Pass Road at night under full moon in that summer. That was quite a road trip. I was hooked. And then, in November, Thanksgiving weekend in November 84, Chuck said, you want to go snowboarding in Tahoe?
Oh, wow.
So we went up in his old Barfmobile, which was an old Datsun worn out that had Bondo all over it, and the one in the picture.
Yeah.
And we went in and stayed in South Lake and hiked Carson Pass, and I rode my first powder.
Sick.
With Chuck and Jamie Johnston and Brian Judge, and came back and said, I should, went back to Santa Barbara. And then I talked, who was Chuck Barfoot and Mike Nakamura, who was a friend of his.
Mm-hmm.
They were arranging, or I was living at Chuck's house, and Nakamura was going to go on a road trip, which was in 85 to Baker.
Incredible.
And they were doing the complete loop, and that's where I met all those early people. And so that set it all up for me. It was good.
Well, we're on a road trip right now. We're doing the same thing. It's 40 years later, and we're doing the same damn thing because it's the fucking best way to live your life. It's these little adventures and the people you meet along the way. And I'm not just talking about the snowboarders.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy at the gas station we bought rolling papers from last night.
Shame on you.
Yeah. He just was cool. Like you see people when you're gassing up your car and they look over, they go, fucking Canada, eh? Snowboards in the summer. And it's just it's the absolute same energy. And I fucking love it. I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I never thought that I would be shooting video at Bud Fawcett's place talking about his life in snowboarding.
Did you turn the camera on?
Oh, I fucking hope so.
Do you have the audio at least?
Thank you. Thank you, Bud.
Thanks for having me.
Dude.
It's been a pleasure. And as soon as this is cut off, we're doing tequila shots. Just kidding. It's morning time here in Oregon.
It's 5:00 somewhere.
Oh, that's what they say. There's always snow somewhere.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Bud.
Thank you.
FNRad shoutouts this week to Bud Fawcett for his amazing hospitality, inviting Gentle Brad, intern Josh, and myself to stay with him on our way to Mount Hood. Special thanks to Jody Wachniak and the Airtime podcast for doing an incredible job interviewing Bud last year. Great work, both you guys. We're deep into winter now, and it's time to get started engaging with you, the person listening to this show right now, in a meaningful way. How about some brand partner giveaways? How about some live events on social media? If you want that kind of stuff, please DM me at the FNRad podcast. Let's build this community together. Be sure to come back next week for more FNRad snowboarding presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.